Good morning, everybody. Let's try round two. Technical difficulties there on our first try. Technology is a beautiful thing when it works, but when it doesn't, this is what happens. So we're going to give this another shot here and see what we get. Welcome to No Bull with Bryan every Thursday at 8 a.m. I'm glad you're rejoining me, and we hope that this goes off without a hitch, but we'll see how it goes. So today, I really wanted to focus the first half on outsmarting scammers. The best way to do that is just to be educated and understand what they're trying to do and how they're trying to take advantage of you in different situations. So some facts that I pulled up, I just looked at 2018 and it saw that 14.4 million Americans were victim to some sort of scam. So if it's happened to you, you are not alone. It happens to a lot of individuals. You don't have to be embarrassed. Don't feel like you have to hide it from individuals. You want to report this kind of stuff and get it out there. It actually costs people $2.9 billion annually of money lost, as well as just getting everything back in order. What they also found was 90% of the time, it was somebody that the victim trusted. Good morning, Karen. It's good to see you. But yeah, it was 90% of the time the victim actually trusted the person that was scamming them. So keep that in mind. They want to build that trust with you and then take advantage of you. And it's really, really important. If you don't take anything else away today, is understanding, report this stuff. If it happened to you, it'll happen to someone else from that same person or group or whoever is doing it. So make sure you're reporting it, or at least notifying the correct authorities or institutions to ensure that it doesn't happen to others. So the first one I want to talk about is one that we're all familiar with, and that's that collection fraud. It used to manifest itself as a phone call. This is the government. This is something that you owed on. This is a American Express or Discover card or MasterCard saying that you owed money and they needed to collect payment immediately. Typically, they'd ask for it to be wired or of some nature that could not be traced back to them. Nowadays, though, what you are seeing a lot of is that email scam that you have all got. I actually just got one yesterday that said my subscription to a streaming service had expired and I needed to click on the link to update my credit card information. A couple of key things that I noticed in it is, one is grammar. Grammar typically is off. Adjectives tend to be missing. Look for those kind of things. Pronunciation, punctuation, all of that is very critical in looking at it and seeing, okay, does this make sense at all? So some quick pointers, as well as the email address that it's coming from. It's not the address of the company that would be sending it. Advice there, don't click on the link. Don't respond. Actually go to the company's website that you work with. If you do have a subscription with them, directly log into your account and contact them through that, or give an 800 number and give them a call. Another thing I always say to do, again, because I said it's about emotion, is have that trusted family or friend that you can count on, that you can call and say, hey, does this seem right to me or to you? And just get their advice and opinion on it. Sometimes it just takes talking it out with somebody to really get a feel for what's going on. You can always report it to your state AG. They keep records of that. And if they start seeing the same thing over and over, they'll take more measures to try to combat it and stop it. And then you can always reach out to the FTC or the Federal Trade Commission if it's something that your state AG doesn't handle. These scammers, again, I will say again, they prey on your emotions. They are going to try to strike fear or worry in you immediately, so you make bad decisions. So always keep that in mind. If you feel like it's getting to be a very emotional situation, question what's going on there. Second one I want to talk about is the grandparent scheme. We see this a lot as well. This would be somebody just making calls and trying to get information out of you. That would be typically it manifests itself of, hey, grandma, hey, grandpa, this is your favorite grandson or granddaughter. And then they're hoping you say the name, and then they can use that name and kind of roll with it from there. Typically what they say is they need money because they got in trouble or they broke down on the side of the road and they need to pay for the tow truck driver immediately, and you need to wire money immediately, and don't tell my parents. So again, it's that fear, it's that emotion, it's trying to keep it secret and just play off of your love for your family members as well as that worry and concern for them. So anytime you get those phone calls, the best way to combat this kind of thing is to hang up the phone and call them right back on their cell phone. Or if they have a brother or sister, call them. You really want to verify what's going on there, because again, this is just a common scam that people might just miss because they're really worried about their children. The next one is the sweetheart scam. We've all seen this before as well, typically, or heard somebody that's experienced this. And that would be the starting a phone relationship with somebody that you've never met, social dating websites, social media, so Facebook, all meeting people through there. And again, it's just meeting people through online that they are playing on your emotions of love and getting you to trust them and feel for them, and then springing something on you where they need immediate funds for something. Typically, what I would say in this situation is, if they will only continue the relationship with you because they need money, is that the type of relationship that you want to have? So keep that in mind. I also say to verify, if you are thinking about sending money to somebody, to verify the person is real and legitimate. Ask them for sending a picture of their driver's license or their social security card. If you're going to send a large sum of money to somebody, just to verify they are who they say they are. Typically, they'll say no, they're not going to do that, and it's because they don't have that person. And again, those documents can be falsified, so keep that in mind. But that's one way that you might be able to just at least verify who you're talking to. You obviously want to hope that you would meet that person at some point, but if you can't, again, keep in mind that they may be preying on your emotion. The other I'd like to chat about is this sweepstakes scam. Again, this originally manifested as the I'm the king and so, I have an inheritance for you. If you just send over the money for the taxes, we will send you the money. So if you send us 1,000, we'll send you 1,000,000. They take your 1,000, you never get the 1,000,000. I wish it didn't work that way, but that's typically what you would see, if not all of the time. So just think about when you get those kind of things, does it even make sense? Did you win a sweepstakes that you never applied for? You know, how does that happen? How did you win something that you never applied for? Or how did you get this inheritance that you didn't even know you had this relative? Again, they're playing on that joy or that excitement of, wow, I might come into this large windfall of money, and it just never happens. And the final one I want to talk about is that we're seeing a lot more now this year, especially, is the Social Security scam. And that is calling individuals that are receiving Social Security, and they're telling them that their payments are going to be held, or their Social Security checks are going to be held because there has been a intrusion on their account or some kind of fraud was going on, and they need to verify some information from them so they can get their check in the mail. And typically that's getting all your personal information, so that way they can, again, get into your accounts. Another thing they'll also do is ask you to send them money again, only for the reason of there's a hold on your account. And in order to get your checks processed correctly, we need to collect the funds to relieve this hold or this fraud alert. The IRS is typically not going to do that. So again, it's one of those hang up the phone, call the IRS directly, go to their website and give them a call directly to figure out what's going on, if there is anything going on with your account. So keep that in mind. Don't believe phone numbers that come into you because those can be created and sent to you. So the number you're seeing on your caller ID or on your cell phone might not be the actual number. They know that they have to make it look legitimate, either a 1-800 number or a local area code, to ensure that that scam makes a lot of sense to them. So ways to protect yourself. Don't provide personal info. That's one of the easiest ways. And we got some comments here. Love the IRS and Social Security scams. They are prevalent. They are seen all the time, and it's really been a big one lately. The numbers went from $210,000 a year in fraud in this area up to 10 million. So you can see it's becoming the new way that scammers are trying to get individuals. So, and we've seen a really big explosion there. So yeah, great comment there. But anyway, ways to protect. Don't provide your personal information unless you absolutely have to. And again, if somebody calls you asking for personal information, I always recommend hanging up that phone. And if it's a company or a business that you work with, calling their number back, not the number on your caller ID, but actually looking up their number for their office or business and calling them back. Make sure you shred documents. It only takes one with your personal information to get out there and get information into some bad hands that might be used against you. So again, shred documents that have any kind of personal information on it. If you don't have a shredder at home, which I know a lot of people don't, many local financial institutions would gladly take those off your hands and shred them in their devices, especially if you're working one or have a relationship with one. They'd be happy to help out. Don't carry your social security cards around with you. Again, there's not many times where you need to pull out your social security card. If you don't have your social security number memorized, try to memorize it. But again, don't write it down. Don't keep it on you. That is a key piece of information that if somebody gets, they can wreak havoc in your life as far as opening accounts and doing different things. Be cautious online. Tried and true things, having security on your computer and antivirus software, making sure your passwords are strong. It's one of the biggest things. As long as they can't get into your accounts, then you are in a great position to keep your accounts safe. And then protect your credit. Most people realize at this point, but if you don't, here's a helpful information for you. Go out there and check your credit report. You get 3 free ones per year from the major companies, one from each. So it makes sense to check it every once in a while, see if there's anything new or something that doesn't make sense, and follow up on it and make sure that somebody did not open an account in your name or using your social security number. And then be diligent. If you do, or if you are a victim of fraud, be diligent. Don't give up on making sure that the account's closed, that your information's still not out there. So you might have to freeze your accounts. And I know it can be such a pain and such a bummer, but you have to be diligent, because until you can actually get it to completely stop, then these accounts keep cropping up and it's just a never ending battle. So be diligent about your accounts if it does happen to you. So again, those are some things that I really wanted to just talk about quickly today. About educating yourself on some scams that are out there. A lot of them I know we've heard about before, but I just wanted to refresh everybody, especially in these times. They're very prevalent because people are thinking about ways that they can take advantage of you in a time where things are just crazy and all over the place. So that concludes what we're going to talk about on the scammer side of things today. And I am now going to bring in one of my special guests and friend of mine, Ellen Brisley. She is a realtor for Keller Williams Elite, and she has a great story to tell, and I am excited to hear more about it from her, with not only her transition into real estate, but just she's got some great tips that I think she's going to offer. And I have a lot of questions about real estate because I don't do real estate. I do investments. So she's going to be a great help. Again, throw your comments in there, throw your likes, throw your shares. I'm sure Ellen enjoys and welcomes all your questions that you may have. And we'll see if we can stump her today on No Bull with Bryan. So Ellen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Bryan.
I appreciate you. So I really wanted to just start out with allowing my audience to kind of learn a little bit about you and get to know who you are. I think that's big in life, of understanding the people that we're talking with. So just tell us a little bit about you and your life and just who you are.
Well, I'm a wife and a mom and a former exercise physiologist turned real estate agent. I feel like I wear a lot of different hats. So born and raised in North Carolina, went to UNC Chapel Hill, and living in the Triangle now with my husband. We have a 3-year-old son and a 4-year-old son. So you know that they're crazy. They're
keep them busy. Keep them busy
wide
for sure.
open, wide open all the time. Yes.
So before we get into the real estate piece, I really want to kind of dig into you, because you've had a unique transition. Like you said, you've had a couple different careers, much like myself. When did personal finances kind of become important to you and in your life?
The day I graduated college, they became very important. I graduated May of 2009 with 0 job options. And when you don't have money money's very important.
So what did you do? I guess, how did you handle a situation like that?
I didn't handle it well. I'll be honest. It was the hardest year and a half of my life. I was drained mentally, emotionally, and financially, just piecing together what I could. Finally found, after a year of searching, found a job in my field, which at the time was exercise physiology. And so at that time, I was like, I've got to be diligent with what I have, because everybody wiser and smarter than me says, this is cyclical, it will happen again, which terrified me. So, started taking it seriously then. My sister and her husband were doing Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey. And I sort of listened along whenever if they were talking about it, and it made a lot of sense, just being responsible with, what God has blessed you with, and, using your resources to set up a foundation for your own family, but also, to be generous and caring towards others in your community. So I really like the foundation that set. And so whenever Rob, my husband, and I, when we got married, we spent that first year doing the course ourselves and realizing, where we could make some changes, so that we could hold on to some money for our safety net, but then also be able to bless others. So those were two important, pieces that we wanted to hold in tension together. So we just started learning and trying to educate ourselves that way.
That is definitely a great point. I think, I also believe in that first Ramsey approach of just getting yourself secure and set up on the beginning. So it's a great philosophy to start out, especially for you beginners out there. Grab one of those books, take a class. It's a great way to just get started. Very easy information to digest, and really get you started on the right path. So that is definitely amazing, and it's glad to see your diligence. We got some questions coming up on the board. I'll get to those in a second. Okay. But just to be forewarned, people want to know about foreclosure and flipping properties, and I know you have experience in that area. So that's a great question, and I'm sure Ellen, that's not going to stump her. Sorry, guys, but we'll get to it in a second. So before we get into the real estate stuff, though, just finally, what has been your journey in just looking for financial success? How has that kind of have there been ups and downs, and where has it taken you?
Definitely ups and downs. And I think that was one of the big takeaways from the Dave Ramsey. And I think there are lots of resources out there. It's just what we chose. He is a Christian, so we had that component of, we want to be able to give to our community and tithe. So that was important to us. But there's so many resources out there. But all that I've come across was to set that foundation, have that emergency fund set in place, because you never know. Health issues never come with
pandemics.
Hey, 5 years from now, you don't know. So that emergency fund was critical for us. So that's why it was the most important, was making sure that we have bases covered so that we can start doing bigger things. And one of the important aspects, whenever we were doing this, we were newly married and no children. So we knew we wanted to have children, and I was working full time and wanted to be able to stay home for a couple of years. So when we looked at our finances, and we were already doing what he calls the snowball debt, where we were paying off what we could. But I got pregnant with our first child, whenever we were ready, and we were very blessed by that, but we still had some debt. So that's where we decided that my income still needed to cover that debt. So we were in a house, our first home, that needed renovations, and it was a very basic ranch that was great bones. It was nothing crazy, no gut jobs necessary. My husband is in construction, so his background was very helpful. And we just got to work. And we got the house finished while I was pregnant and sold it. And we were able to pay off the remaining debt. And that allowed me to stay at home. So those couple of big whys, like our reason why we were doing it, were big enough that it kept us diligent. We did not go out on a ton of date nights, and we were very careful with what kind of vacation we picked, if any. And, that was worth the short-term no's, because we were saying yes to something bigger, which was that financial freedom, being able to stay at home and raise my boys while they were little. It was just really important to us.
Yeah. And you just hit on so many different things in people's life. Yeah. You did that, there's the unexpected, there's being able to adjust for the situation, but also having a plan and preparing for it and being able to live that out. I think that's really inspirational for people to understand that, there's a way to do it. Even when life's going to throw you curveballs, you still figured out that way to say, you know what, let's still see how we can make this happen. So we're now, you're doing something that you love doing and enjoying life. You get to say a lot more, yes, a lot more than you get to say no now.
Yeah. Well, now I just say no to the little ones that are asking for candy for breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Until you become an adult, then you can have candy for breakfast.
Right.
All right, Ellen. So let's get into your wheelhouse here. And I was thinking of some questions that I had just thinking when I first moved to North Carolina from Ohio, and just some other questions that I get a lot from a lot of my clients that come up. And then again, we've got comments flowing here. So I'll probably throw some of those at you and see how you handle it. Yeah, we'll get out of here. We'll get out of here on time, though, I promise.
No, you're fine.
So I'm going to kind of break it up into two categories, though. I'm thinking sellers and buyers, because I think they're two different attitudes and mentalities when I think about it. And I first want to focus on the sellers. And what I keep hearing a lot of times from people that I talk to is, and especially here and where we're at in the Triangle in North Carolina, it's a hot market. I don't need an agent. I can sell this in a day. And I can, all those costs that agent's going to charge me, that's going in my pocket. So speak to that a little bit. And what are your thoughts on the people that are telling me that?
Yes, it's a very good question. And I do feel like in this market, it makes sense to want to weigh all your options and be as profitable as you can. Your home is one of your biggest investments. So being wise with that, I get it. But when you look at the numbers, for sale by owners, we call them FSBOs, they bring in less money. So whenever you look at the statistics, it varies by area, but in the Triangle, it's around, 89 to 91% of sale price that they actually bring in whenever you go to list by yourself. So you're only going to make 89 to 91% of the sale price, of the listing price whenever you go to sale. With an agent, those listings, because they're getting the traction of the MLS and high visibility, you've got somebody negotiating for you, those are selling between 98 and 102% of the listing price. So you're already making more money on the front end as far as just looking at sale price versus the listing price. And so whenever you factor in, if you just do the basic math of an agent being 5 to 7% commission, and that's split between the buyer and seller agents. So you're paying for both. Well, most FSBOs are going to go under contract, first of all, in longer time, but also you're still going to pay 99% of the time, you're still going to pay a buyer's agent because they have a buyer, they're bringing them to you and will ask, will you still honor a buyer agent commission? So hear me out. You don't want to pay 5 to 7% to a listing agent who is going to split that 5 to 7% with the buyer agent who brings the buyer. But you're willing to pay the 2 to 3% to a buyer's agent who is going to negotiate against you. So, if you're still going to end up paying that commission to a buyer's agent who has the buyer ready to come, I would argue it's worth that extra 2 to 3 to get that.
Yeah. I think people don't realize, and a lot of the times that, you're going to have to pay that agent that's bringing somebody to your house to look at it, or they're going to expect that, where that's already built into your agent that you have. So that's great information to have. And like I said, it's about the numbers of, if you pay an agent 5%, but they get you 10% more, well, you made 5% on that. So what's wrong with paying somebody to help you out and get you that extra?
Right. And that's just the basic numbers. There's, of course, all the compliance issues and making sure that your documents are legally sound, and the paperwork and the coordination of all the appraisals and the inspections, things like that your sellers are going to need to coordinate with the buyers. An agent's going to help cover all of that for you. They're going to be your logistics coordinator and your negotiator when those inspection reports come back. You've got a buyer agent who has the fiduciary responsibility to their client, the buyer, not to you. And they're going to be negotiating on their behalf, and you are on your own. So even aside from the numbers, there's still that, making sure that you're looking out for your best interest and have somebody that can be on your side.
Now that makes entire sense. And I am a person that, please do all that for me. I don't have the time to deal with the compliance of selling a home and negotiation and all that. So I definitely value that. Part of it is that my time is precious to me. So
yes,
take that off my plate, please. Also on the seller side, the other question you hear all the time, I'm sure, is I'm prepping my house. I want to get top dollar for it. What should I be doing? Should I put in the pool in the back? Should I paint the walls? Should I change the floors? What are the quick tips that I'm going to get my biggest bang for my buck, or I'm just going to get a good return on investment?
Sure. And I think that's where a real estate agent, again, is going to bring a lot of value. You are paying them at the end of the transaction. So whenever you go to close, you're paying them. So up front, they're giving you tips and advice before you've even paid them. So get somebody soon. You're not paying out of pocket to retain them. So go ahead and get them early. Don't wait until you're ready to list, because you may have actually put your money where it doesn't need to go. Whenever you have a set amount that you can spend on fixing the house, make sure that those dollars count and that you're spending them where you're going to see the best return. You want return on investment to be as high as possible. That's Bryan's world.
That's my world, right? That's what I'm saying.
On where you spend those dollars. So, the sooner you can get an agent involved with you so that they can manage your expectations, look at the CMAs, which is your comparative market analysis. You want to look at what the neighborhood is doing. Does everybody else have these kind of finishes, and maybe you need to do an update? Or is everybody selling just fine with this particular feature? First and foremost, an agent should say, just be clean and staged. A home that is clean and smells nice and, is move-in ready, even if it's not current and updated finishes, is still better than putting in the wrong finishes or spending a bunch of money that you're not going to get a return on. Manage your expectations with what the neighborhood is doing, and the agent can help you with that as far as, what is expected of a home in that neighborhood. Get it clean, get it staged. Those are very inexpensive ways. And then, of course, if there are repairs, an agent's going to have connections to vetted professionals, people who they trust, who they can say, yes, this person's going to do a good job, and it's going to be worth that time. So, it might be that you have a deck that's falling apart. Well, the deck is great. That's a great asset and feature to your home, but it also needs to be safe. That's going to come back on an inspection report if there's a safety issue. So if you can go ahead and tackle that, and you have a professional that your real estate agent has recommended to you that is going to do a good job, then that money is well spent. So those would be my top picks for a seller.
So very, very simple and very cheap if you do it yourself is clean your house. straighten up, tidy
Yes,
up.
be
That makes
clean. Make sure it smells good. No dogs or cat smells,
that makes so much sense. That just be clean, just make it
Yeah.
clean. And I think that's also a great thing of you're going to know the people that do great work at a reasonable price. So you're going to be, a resource for them of if they want to do something, who to talk to. So I think that's great as well. And versus going out there and just doing a typical Google search and whoever shows up at the top of the list, giving them a call and hoping the
That can
stars
be
are right on
dangerous.
their account. Yeah. All right. So let's flip it the other way now. So now I am looking at a buyer's side of things, which I know is a different attitude. And I'm just thinking about, I've learned so much over my years, but there's a lot of first time home buyers out there. And it's a scary world that there's a lot of, like you said, acronyms, VHAs and FHAs and all kinds of A's out there that people just
CMA,
don't get. Yeah, there's plenty out there. So as a first-time home buyer, if I'm going into it to maybe take some of that stress or intimidation off, what are some advice you can share with somebody in that realm?
Yeah. So get your agent early. Find somebody that you trust. Find somebody who's really going to go to bat for you and make sure that they're helping you manage those emotions, because especially your first home, there's so much just unknown that the anxiety and the excitement are uncontainable at times. So it's good to have somebody who's going to stay nice and steady, remind you whenever we get emotional of the facts, and this is what we're doing, and this is the process. So when you get somebody early, they can walk you through that process in its entirety and make sure that you understand and you have the ability to ask questions as you go. So when I take a client on, the first thing we do is a buyer consultation. And this is true for sellers as well. We're going to do a listing consultation with all the sellers, make sure that they understand, expectations, what's realistic for their money coming in and what they need to do to get the house ready. But for the buyer consultation, especially first-time home buyers or somebody who has not bought in a long time, and things have changed, we want to make sure that we are managing those expectations of the triangle right now. It is a hot market. So we might have to put in offers on multiple homes before we get one. So when you have an agent who can walk you through the process, explain to you that we need a pre-approval letter from your lender to make sure that we can put in any offers that we have, so that we are taken seriously by the sellers. You want to make sure that you are mom duties. You want to make sure that you are setting a very clear line of deal breakers versus wish list, because there's going to be homes out there that have met your deal breaker standards, but you wish you had something else. And so just managing how you want to focus on the qualities of the home that you're looking for. What does it have to have? What does it not have to have? What do you really want it to have? And being realistic with that price range. And of course, the pre-approval letter I mentioned. And then it's important to know that whenever you take on an agent, you are not paying them up front. As a buyer, you really don't pay them. The seller is going to pay the commission that the selling agent, buying agent, they split that commission. So it's important to know that you don't have that out-of-pocket expense on day one with your agents. They will get paid at the closing table. So use them early on, ask those questions. They can make sure that you understand that what you are going to pay out of pocket during the process is going to be your appraisal and your inspection and maybe a survey for the house that you go under contract for. So understanding where those all fall in line for the timeline and what to expect, that what kind of cash you are going to need and things like that. They can walk you through that and make sure that you feel confident in the process, as well as the professionals that you're going to choose to use. And those are all ways that a professional real estate agent is going to bring value to the table.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, find somebody you trust, which I think is huge and important, as well as just understanding that they're on your team and you're not
Yeah.
paying them. You're getting them for free essentially. Their payments coming from
You're
that.
paying by providing the funds for the house.
Yeah,
So it's just not an extra fee,
yes, exactly. Yeah, I think some people think, well, I have to pay this person, but yeah, it's just
exactly. That's
it's
the
not
case.
that way, right?
Yeah.
And one question, and this is personal to me, in that people moving to an area, so uprooting their lives and maybe coming from the north, New York. I know we got a lot of New York individuals in the Wake Up to the Vibe crew, as well as just all over the country. They want to move to an area, but they may not know anybody or not know the area that well. How does that work? And I remember how frustrated I was. I didn't want to drive down to North Carolina every other week to look at homes, and it gets expensive on flights and gas and all of that.
Well, and now depending on where you're coming from, you might have to quarantine on each side.
Exactly. So how do you handle your clients that are kind of in that boat, or how does that work? Because I feel like that was a struggle for me when I first moved out here, of not knowing anything about the area and not knowing who to trust or what to look for.
Yes, it can be very overwhelming. And I think technology was already there for real estate agents. We do a lot of, DocuSign and things like that once you're under contract. And so thankfully technology has already been in place, and we've really adapted with COVID on how we can handle clients. And we've had FaceTime and video conferencing and Zoom and things like that. So it's easy to see the process. All of my buyer consultations and listing consultations are via Zoom anyway. So aside from the time difference, if somebody's maybe, on the West Coast, which I actually do have clients right now on the West Coast who I'm working with to build a new home because they have some time before they're going to be here. So they said, well, we'll just build, and that way we know what we're getting when we move there, and don't have to wait and see what hits the market in the spring. So we can walk through that process online. It's hard to get a feel for the neighborhood. Ideally, you can come here in person. The next option will be finding somebody else that you trust, a family member or a friend that might live nearby that can say, yeah, I like this neighborhood. I think this neighborhood would meet your needs. A real estate agent is going to do their best to just present facts. We really try to leave out all the biases and stereotypes, because we want to make sure that we are not assuming what you might prefer in a neighborhood. So we want to have those buyer consultations and be really thorough about what are you looking for from like a very fact-based place. We want to go through your deal breakers, your wish list, what you have to have. Don't show me a house that has this. Show me all the houses that have this, that sort of thing. So it's very doable now with technology the way it is. I would say the absolute hardest thing is getting a feel for the neighborhood, because, pictures can sort of cut off certain aspects and you don't get full picture of how it feels to drive into the neighborhood and see no trees that have all been cut down or very mature trees. Either one could be, a preference depending on the person. So, that's the hardest thing, is really understanding how the neighborhood feels. But you can find out. We can look at maps and say, this is how close the grocery store is. And if this school is important to you, then we'll look in this school. A great thing about the MLS, that is obviously a professional tool, so it should have more features than your typical real estate search engines. We can narrow down so tightly from budget, features of the home, neighborhood names, school districts. I mean, we can narrow it down as far as you need, and make sure that search is set up so that when that house hits the market that meets all those criteria, you get that information and we're going to go see it. I have gone to houses and previewed them on FaceTime and just looking around and making sure that people can see firsthand as soon as it hits the market. But technology is our friend for somebody who's not going to be here.
I definitely think, that's great. If you know somebody in the area, to go along with the real estate agent that you're working with and just maybe give their biased feedback on it versus the factual information. I think that, another great idea. Yeah. Like you said, live conferencing with them while you're looking at a unit, which is another great idea to potentially move to an area. So those are great things that I wish they were around when I moved down here. That would have been amazing because
Right.
I drove down here every week and for like a month and a half straight of just trying to figure out, like you said, where do I want to live? Just picking the area alone was ordeal in itself, not just the home. So yeah, that is great information. I know that you're proficient with the sledgehammer. And somebody did have a question on real estate. So here was their question that they asked, and I can even pull it up here
on the spot.
Yeah, so we're the no preparation on the spot. Hi, Alan. Would love to learn how to utilize real estate as an investment option, specifically how to use foreclosure properties. So again, I know you don't deal with actual investing dollars in an account, but to me, it sounds like, how could they utilize the foreclosures or things like that to maybe flip a house or fix it up and sell it at a nice little profit?
Yeah, so I do think that foreclosures are going to be on the rise next year. That's been predicted. It makes sense. Right now, people still have the funds to make their, not everybody still has funds, but a lot of people are still making their mortgage payments. So if money runs out, if jobs that were secure start getting lost, yes, we will see an increase in foreclosures. Get an agent. Find somebody who can get you in contact with, you can be in contact with attorneys who deal with a lot of foreclosures, and they can let you know. Foreclosures and short sales, especially. Short sales are a very long process, but it can be a great way to get into a investment, whether you're buying and holding or flipping. It's a great way to get in at a lower cost, because we know that we make money in real estate the day you purchase it. So it's your purchase price that makes you money. So the higher that purchase price, it really narrows down. So foreclosure is a great way, but if you get in with an agent, make sure that you have those contacts so that whenever the property comes available, being in contact with an attorney who deals with foreclosures, you will know when things are coming. And once they're available. Obviously, it deals with a lot of personal and confidential information, so you're not getting this information until a lot of others are going to get it as well. But in my office in particular, with Keller Williams Elite, we have a ton of agents, so we also communicate well as far as properties that are coming up. In a confidential way without, revealing too much information, but I have a property in this general area and it's going to be this type of situation. So the more people you can be in touch with who are in the real estate world, the more ways that you'll be able to get into contact with these foreclosures when they start hitting the market, so that you can snag one and go make your fun.
So what I'm hearing is know the right people that are immersed in that world, so you can get things, early and less expensive than as people find out about it.
Yeah. And a good attorney and a good real estate agent that work well together are going to help you through that process, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of financial issues where there's clearly financial issues. There's a lot of legal issues where you're trying to navigate to make sure that mainly that the lender, whoever holds the lien, is getting what they need. And so working through that, you need, good communication skills with your agent and an attorney.
No, that makes entire sense of it. Yeah, it's a more complicated process. So don't expect it to run smoothly if you don't have people that really know what they're doing and buying and selling those. So that's great. All right, Ellen. Well, I don't want to keep you much longer. I've enjoyed our time together today.
I'm surprised we didn't have more chaos in the background. And
if they need to come in and say hi to some classmates or anything like that, I'm sure they're dying to get on screen.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing some information to the crowd here, and just hopefully providing something that people can take back. And, if they're looking at buying or looking at selling, just giving that practical advice is great. I do want you to promote yourself here. tell people how they could get a hold of you if they did have more questions for you, or just wanted to talk more on a personal note versus posting things on the comment section. So please feel free, plug away.
All right. Well, first of all, let's go back to your original conversation. Know that a real estate agent, especially me and our entire office, no one is ever going to ask you for money. Beware of wire fraud in real estate too. It is on the rise. So you do not send money whenever you are closing. You do not send you do not wire your money to your real estate agent either. So just a little plug there. Make sure that you are not sending money just to any old email saying, hey, you're going to lose your house if you don't, the house that you're under contract with, you won't be able to buy it if you don't do this. So beware of that. But yes, so I work with Keller Williams Elite. It's in Durham, but we service the entire triangle. That is Hillsborough and Chapel Hill in Orange County. It's Durham here in Durham County, all of Wake County, and the surrounding counties around that. So we have access in the MLS to all those properties. We can list, we can help you buy. And I'm happy to walk anybody through that process with a Zoom buyer consultation and listing consultation. It's very easy. It's a good hour long, so it's not just a quick little conversation, because we really want to dive into your wants and needs. And again, I've mentioned deal breakers and wish lists. We want to make sure that we're on the same page and managing those expectations. But I'd be happy to do a consultation with anybody who just wants more information. I use it sort of as an interview for myself and for the clients to see that we both want to work together. So that's a great first step if you're looking for an agent.
Okay. And again, the best way to reach out to you, is it by phone, email?
You can reach me at Ellen Brisley. You can see my name here. Ellen Brisley at kw.com. That's the easiest way, because I can reply pretty quickly and not.
All right. So perfect, Ellen. I do appreciate your time. Hopefully you can stick around. We'll talk after I end the show and just catch up. Another thing about Ellen too, she knows all the best ice cream spots around here. So if you need that too, she'll offer that free of charge as your real estate agent, I'm sure.
My kids don't look like me, but they got my sweet tooth for sure.
So that's an added bonus if you chat with Ellen. Ask her where to get some good ice cream. Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Hopefully you picked up some valuable information today as far as just, again, understanding how people might be trying to take advantage of you or your accounts and your emotions. And Ellen, again, threw another great one at the end of there of don't wire money to your real estate agent because there's an emergency over the weekend before you close, or verify that information as well. So again, some great pieces of information. Hopefully you got something that you can use today, tomorrow, next year. Share it with friends, share it with your loved ones. I'd love to see you next week. Please invite, please keep commenting. Again, I appreciate everything that you guys do, and all those that were watching. Have a great Thursday. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there, everybody.